Hello, this is Mrs. Hudson. So, hopefully in class you have completed this sheet here, telling me what Admiral Medina Sidonia, the Spanish admiral, the man in charge of the Navy, would have said. You should have answered either the red, the blue or the green question. So, we are continuing to work on being able to complete the question, write an account of the Spanish Armada attack. And we should be trying to include the following key words: Spanish Armada, King Philip II, Cadiz and Galleon. And this is a picture here of the battle that took place that we looked at the start of last lesson. So what we're going to do is, first of all, we're going to watch a video here which shows the historian David Starkey. And what I'd like you to do after the video has finished is I'd like you to go into forms and assignments, and I'd like you to complete the quiz titled Spanish Armada.
The Spanish did not really expect to be challenged on their voyage up the Channel. The English fleet was half the size of the Armada, but what they lacked in numbers, they made up for in design.
The English ships were much smaller than the Spanish ships. The Spanish ships tended to have large forecastles and large aftercastles, which were fortified areas on the ship where they could house men when they engaged in battle, men who could then board other ships. But as the rigs were fairly small, in fact too small really for powering the ships along, it meant that the Spanish ships were largely only of use in trade-wind sailing, in following the routes between Spain and the Americas, rather than in tactical fighting within the English Channel. And I think that is where the English ships scored, because they were relatively smaller and therefore more manoeuvrable and had the tactical advantage.
The English still weren't ready to engage the Spanish fleet head-on. Sir Francis Drake, now promoted to Vice Admiral, favoured skirmishing tactics. As the Armada sailed up the Channel, there was a scatter of vicious dogfights. The English had a secret weapon. They called it the Hell Burner. They packed 5 ships with pitch and timber, set fire to them, and put them adrift amongst the Spanish galleons. There was panic. Many of the Spanish ships up anchor and fled, and were scattered by the wind. Incredibly, Medina Sidonia, the Spanish admiral, managed to reunite his scattered ships. They even resumed their powerful crescent formation. Then, off Gravelines, on the coast of the Netherlands, the two fleets, for the first time, came into battle at close quarters. Each side used its favourite tactics. The Spaniards tried to board, the English brought their heavy guns into play at close quarters. And it was the English guns that won the day. They killed thousands of Spaniards, and they did terrible damage to the structure of the Spanish ships, though only a handful actually went down. The winds and the weather now finished what the English fleet had begun. Many of the Spanish ships were wrecked off the coasts of the British Isles as they tried to find their way home. The defeat of the Armada was England's and Elizabeth's finest hour. Little wonder that she had this portrait painted as a symbolic memorial. Elizabeth was now mistress of the 7 seas, as well as of her own people. Elizabeth had entered the war against Spain with a deep sense of foreboding, but she'd emerged triumphant. Above all, she'd shown that a woman could be an inspirational leader in war as well as in peace. Of course, the weather had played its part in the victory over the Armada, God's winds blew and they were scattered, as it said on the back of the commemorative medal. But this fact does nothing to diminish the extent of the English victory or the scale of Spain's defeat and humiliation. At the beginning of Elizabeth's reign, the heralds had proclaimed that she was empress from the Orkney Isles to the Pyrenean Mountains. Then the claim to English overlordship of the seas was empty bombast. With the defeat of the Armada, it became sober reality. It was an astonishing achievement. The only problem now was living up to it.
Okay, so at this point, you need to go and find the form in assignments titled The Spanish Armada and answer the 4 questions in there. So the next bit is, we talked about what had happened in terms of the event of the battle, or the Battle of Gravelines, the Spanish Armada attack. We're now going to look at the consequences and what happens next. So the wind changed direction, and this was a massive problem for the Spanish, as it sent the Armada further up out of the English Channel and into the North Sea. A storm then occurs which smashes some 25 Spanish ships against the rocks off the coast in Scotland and Ireland, pretty much destroying their Armada. The Duke of Medina Sidonia, the Admiral, gives up the plan to invade England. Now what we are going to complete here is the end outcomes here and this box, just as you always have. So summarise the consequences of the battle in 3 bullet points using the information on the previous page. Make sure for each bullet point you have an image to match up with it. So for instance, one of the consequences would be that the wind blew the Spanish Armada into the North Sea. That's my first bullet point, so you can see a picture of the wind up there. So 2 more bullet points to do and 2 more pictures to match up. You then, as always, need to add in a word which describes how England are feeling at this point. So you then need to read through the information on the following slides about the reasons why the Spanish lost, and then answer the question on the final slide. Okay, so hopefully you can go back and read those for longer if you need to. But what do you think was the key reason why the Spanish Armada lost? This is where I want you to justify your answer. And you must make sure you compare your main reason why they lost to at least one other reason. So there's some sentence openers here. I think the main reason they lost was because of, choose a reason from the previous slides. Was it bad ship design? Was it a poor plan of attack? This led to their loss because. Another reason they lost was, choose another reason, and then explain to me how this helped them lose. And then, however, this was not as significant as my top choice because, so you need to explain why this reason was more important than this reason in terms of them losing the battle. We're always trying to compare the different arguments and justify our opinion, just like a historian would.